Have you ever wondered what's truly going on behind the scenes of your internet connection? Or maybe why your smart home device, perfectly reliable one day, might suddenly feel a little sluggish the next? Sometimes our digital lives feel pretty seamless, and then without warning, something just feels, well, off. It's almost like there's some kind of unseen force at work, pulling strings we can't quite perceive. Today we're taking a deep dive into something incredibly prevalent, yet often invisible: botnets. We're going to unpack what these digital armies are, what they're truly capable of, and maybe most importantly, what you need to know to, well, protect yourself from potentially becoming an unwitting participant in their schemes. Our mission today really is to cut through the noise. We're diving into the core material you've gathered, the reports, the research, to distill the critical truths about this digital menace. We want to give you clarity where there's often just, confusion. Think of it like getting a VIP pass to understand the hidden architecture of the internet.
Yeah, and we're not just defining terms here, are we? We're going to explore how these clandestine networks actually operate, what makes some of them so notoriously effective, and crucially, the broader implications they have for our collective digital security. We'll try and connect the dots and help you understand not just what they are, but why they really matter to you personally.
Okay, so to truly grasp this, let's start right at the beginning. When we talk about bots and botnets terms, you hear thrown around a lot in cybersecurity discussions. What exactly are these digital entities and how do they fundamentally operate?
Right. Well, at its core, a botnet is essentially a network of compromised computers or increasingly other devices. You can imagine a vast interconnected sort of army of machines, each one infected with malware, and all under the remote control of a single attacker or sometimes a group. These individual infected devices, those are what we call bots. The attacker or bot master then coordinates their actions, turning them into this unified malicious force. What's fascinating and kind of scary is the sheer scale they can achieve. We could be talking millions of devices. Yeah.
Millions. Wow.
Yeah. And these bots can be used for a really wide range of, frankly, incredibly damaging purposes. One of the most common is probably a distributed denial of service attack, or DDoS. This is where the botnet just overwhelms a targeted system or network with so much traffic that it grinds to a halt. It becomes inaccessible to legitimate users. Think of like a major highway suddenly getting jammed by millions of extra cars all trying to get on at once.
Okay, so just flooding the target.
Exactly. But that's definitely not all. They're also heavily involved in things like spam and phishing campaigns, sending out just massive volumes of unwanted emails or messages, often laced with malicious links or attachments designed to trick people into revealing information or clicking something bad. And maybe more chillingly, they're used for data theft, quietly siphoning off sensitive information like login credentials, financial data, or personally identifiable information from the infected machines themselves. In some cases, they've even been employed for ransomware, encrypting files on a victim's computer and then demanding payment for their decryption.
The scale you mentioned of millions of devices working together, that sounds like a huge coordination effort. What makes these networks so incredibly effective, and why are they, as you say, so notoriously difficult to even spot, let alone dismantle? It really does feel like fighting a digital ghost army.
That's a really good way to put it. Their effectiveness comes down to a few key characteristics. First, there's usually centralized command and control, or C2. Sometimes it's decentralized, but often there's a central point. This means the botnet is controlled by a server, or maybe a few servers, that send commands out to all the infected devices, ensuring every bot acts in concert.
Like a general commanding troops.
Precisely. Then there's scalability, and this is where it gets truly impactful. Like I said, botnets can comprise millions of devices. This allows them to launch truly massive attacks that would be utterly impossible for a single attacker or even a small group. Just imagine the combined computational power of 1 million compromised computers all working together against one target.
It's staggering.
It is. They also exhibit incredible adaptability. Botnets aren't static. They can evolve. They change their behavior in response to countermeasures or new ways to attack. It's a constant arms race between attackers and defenders. And perhaps most critically for you listening is their stealth. Infected devices often remain completely unaware they're compromised. Your computer, your smart device, could be part of a botnet right now, contributing to a DDoS attack or sending out spam, and you might have absolutely no idea. This characteristic is exactly what makes detection so incredibly difficult for the average user, and often even for sophisticated security systems.
Right. To really get a handle on the sophistication and the a real threat of botnets, I think looking at some real-world examples really helps. Our
Yeah.
sources point to a few truly notorious ones from the digital trenches that genuinely shifted the cybersecurity landscape. Let's maybe start with a classic. ZeuS.
ZeuS. Yes, also known as ZBot. It's been around since about 2007, primarily targeting Windows systems. It's a name that definitely strikes fear into banking institutions and cybersecurity pros, and for very good reason. Its main goal was always crystal clear. Steal sensitive financial information. We're talking banking credentials, credit card numbers, login details, and it achieved this by, well, quite slyly intercepting keystrokes and manipulating online forms right under the user's nose.
So while you think you're typing into your bank's website,
Exactly. ZeuS is considered one of the most sophisticated and widespread botnets in history. Just to give you a sense of its reach, estimates suggested it infected up to 3.6 million PCs in the United States alone. That's just a staggering number. It really highlights its incredible success in compromising
I mean,
systems.
0.6 million in the U.S. That's mind-boggling. How did it manage to be so stealthy and effective for so long, avoiding detection?
Well, it had several layers of cunning, you could say. ZeuS used pretty advanced techniques to evade detection by antivirus software and firewall rules, making it incredibly difficult to spot and remove. But its real signature move, its sort of hallmark, was the use of man-in-the-browser attacks, or MITB. And the insight here, I think, is how ZeuS didn't just attack systems, it expertly preyed on our fundamental trust in familiar interfaces. You could be on your actual bank's website, everything looks normal, but you'd be completely unaware that this invisible middleman was quietly siphoning off your details or maybe even subtly changing transaction amounts behind the scenes. That's a really profound breach of the digital trust we implicitly place in our web browsers every day.
That's terrifying, the idea of it being right there in the browser.
It is. And another factor in its persistence was its architecture. ZeuS was often designed as a decentralized botnet, or used peer-to-peer elements. This meant infected computers might report to a command and control server, but the network itself was quite spread out, making it much harder for law enforcement to shut the whole thing down. Taking out one piece didn't necessarily cripple the operation.
Ah, so no single head to cut off, necessarily.
Exactly. And while ZeuS itself was formidable, it also spawned numerous updates and variants. One particularly infamous offshoot was Game Over ZeuS. Back in 2012, the FBI and international law enforcement agencies launched this massive disruption effort against it. Game Over ZeuS was estimated to have infected over 500,000 computers worldwide. There was also the notable arrest in 2013 of Hamza Bendalaj, known as BX1. He was accused of operating spy botnets and strongly suspected of involvement with ZeuS, too. These efforts really show the global scale of the fight against these digital threats.
Okay, next up, Mirai. This one feels distinctly different from ZeuS because it marks such a profound shift in the botnet landscape, didn't it? What specifically made Mirai such a game changer?
Mirai was absolutely a significant pivot. It was discovered around August 2016, and what made it different was that Mirai specifically infected Internet of Things devices, or IoT devices. It turned them into zombies, or bots. Our sources are very clear on this, stating explicitly, the Mirai botnet was unlike other malware because it attacked IoT devices instead of computers.
Wow.
So this means it was targeting everyday things like smart cameras, digital video recorders, DVRs, home routers, basically turning them into weapons.
So not just PCs anymore, but
Yeah.
everything connected.
Pretty much anything with weak security. And what made these devices so vulnerable? It was often incredibly simple. Mirai would just scan the internet for devices using default usernames and passwords, the ones that come preset that many users, frankly, just don't bother to change. Once it found a device with easily guessable credentials, boom, it would infect it. And the origin story is almost unbelievable. Mirai was apparently created by 3 teenage boys, Paris Kaw, Josiah White, and Dalton Norman. And get this, they initially used it, reportedly, to attack rival Minecraft servers.
It's craft servers. Seriously.
Seriously, imagine this sophisticated global weapon born from teenage gaming rivalries. But then, and this is the truly chilling part, its source code was later released online, leaked. That essentially handed the keys to this digital army to anyone with malicious intent. That's when it really got unleashed on the world stage.
So it weaponized all these everyday smart devices, and then the blueprint got out. What kind of widespread impact did that have?
Oh, it had a massive impact. Mirai was behind some of the largest and most disruptive distributed denial of service attacks ever recorded at the time. In September 2016, it launched a huge 1 TBP's attack against the French technology company OVH. At its peak, it was using around 145,000 infected devices. But the incident that really got everyone's attention was the DIN attack in October 2016. DIN is a major managed DNS provider. They help route internet traffic. This attack significantly affected huge websites and services across the entire eastern United States and parts of Europe. It caused widespread outages for major online platforms. It really demonstrated the immense power of weaponized IoT devices to the whole world.
Okay, let's shift gears again. Let's talk about Conficker, also known as Down It Up or Keto. This one was detected even earlier back in 2008, and it sounds incredibly persistent. What really stands out about Conficker compared to ZeuS and Mirai?
Conficker is, yeah, it's a fascinating case because it truly highlighted the challenges of combating really persistent malware. It's a highly widespread computer worm that specifically targeted Microsoft Windows operating systems. Interestingly, despite its massive propagation, it infected millions of computers globally, forming a huge botnet. Our sources indicate that its authors, who are believed to be Ukrainian, didn't actually seem to do much damage with it. Perhaps, and this is speculation based on the sources, they didn't dare fully exploit it because it drew such immense global attention from security researchers and law enforcement.
So it got too big? Too famous, maybe?
Possibly. The Conficker case offers a really crucial insight, I think. Sometimes the sheer visibility and scale of a threat can paradoxically deter its full exploitation. The massive attention it drew likely made its creators wary of leveraging its full destructive potential. It highlights this delicate balance cybercriminals have to strike between impact and staying hidden. Its propagation methods were quite effective for its time, though. It exploited known flaws in Windows OS software, specifically the MS08067 vulnerability, which was a big deal back then. It also used dictionary attacks on administrator passwords to spread across networks. Then it would link all these infected computers together globally.
And it wasn't just spreading passively, was it? It had some kind of sophisticated self-defense mechanism. How did Conficker manage that?
That was one of its most notable characteristics, definitely. Conficker actively fought back. It would scan for and actually terminate anti-malware software, patch utilities, or diagnostic tools running on the infected machine, basically disarming efforts to remove it. It even blocked certain DNS lookups, preventing infected machines from reaching security update websites. And in a particularly clever, almost ironic move, it disabled Windows Auto Update, and then it patched the very MS08067 vulnerability it had used to get in.
Wait, it fixed the vulnerability.
It did, but only to open its own reinfection backdoor. It was like closing the front door to stop anyone else getting in, while secretly creating its own hidden entrance around the back.
Wow, that's intricate.
Very. And the legacy of Conficker is that, believe it or not, it remains a significant malware threat even today. There are still ongoing efforts required to detect and clean infected systems. Its persistence and adaptability have really made it a benchmark for understanding and combating advanced malware threats. It showed how a worm could not only spread but also entrench itself deeply and evolve over time.
Okay, so we've heard about these powerful, stealthy threats. ZeuS hiding in your browser, Mirai turning your camera against you, Conficker digging in like a digital tick. What does all of this mean for you, the listener? Given this stealth, this sophistication, how can individuals and organizations actually detect and defend against botnets? It really feels like fighting an invisible enemy sometimes.
It can feel that way, absolutely. But the good news is there are clear, actionable steps you can take, and our sources provide some excellent practical guidance. First and foremost, and you hear this a lot, but it's critical, keep your software up to date. This means ensuring all your devices, all your applications, your operating system, your web browser, even your smart home device firmware have the latest security patches installed. Many botnets, like Conficker we just discussed, exploit known vulnerabilities. Updates are specifically designed to fix those gaps.
Patch, patch, patch.
Exactly. Next, use reputable antivirus software. Install it, and crucially, keep it regularly updated. These tools are designed specifically to detect and remove the kind of malicious software that could turn your device into a bot. Also, implement firewall rules. Configure your firewalls, both the one on your computer and the one likely built into your network router, to restrict incoming and outgoing traffic. This can help block the command and control communications that botnets rely on to function. For organizations, monitoring network traffic is absolutely crucial. Using tools to detect suspicious activity, unusual patterns, can be a really powerful early warning system. And finally, something we can all do. educate users. For individuals, this means staying aware of the risks. For organizations, it's about actively raising awareness about botnets and malware, encouraging everyone to be cautious, avoid suspicious emails, attachments, dodgy links, that sort of thing.
Those are really crucial proactive steps. But what if, maybe, it's too late for prevention? What are some telltale signs that a device might already be part of a botnet? What should listeners be looking out for in their daily digital lives that might indicate a problem brewing?
That's a great question. Your device might actually be showing symptoms, even if they're subtle. Look out for unexplained slow performance. Is your computer or phone suddenly much more sluggish than usual? Or unusual network activity like, is there a lot of data being uploaded or downloaded when you're not actively doing anything demanding on the internet? You might experience frequent crashes, systems freezing up for no apparent reason, or notice unexpected pop-ups or ads that seem to come out of absolutely nowhere. Also, keep an eye on your CPU or memory usage. If you check your system monitor and they're consistently high, even when you're not running heavy applications, that could be a sign that a botnet is secretly running processes in the background. If you notice any of these things consistently, it's definitely time to investigate further, run a full system scan with updated security software.
Right. Good indicators to watch for. Finally, let's zoom out to the bigger picture again. What legal measures are actually in place to combat these large-scale, often international, threats? It sounds like an enormous challenge to bring down something as pervasive as ZeuS or Mirai must have been.
It truly is a global effort and a huge challenge. Legally, most countries now have laws and regulations that criminalize the creation, distribution, and use of botnets. So building or operating one is illegal. However, what's particularly crucial here, given the nature of the internet, is international cooperation between law enforcement agencies. Botnets often span across national borders. The controller might be in one country, the servers in another, and the infected bots all over the world. So disrupting them requires synchronized efforts from police forces and agencies in multiple countries working together. There are ongoing initiatives specifically aimed at taking down the command and control, or CNC, servers, those central brains of the botnet operations. Taking out the CNC infrastructure plays an incredibly crucial role in dismantling these vast networks. It's a constant ongoing battle, but that collaboration is absolutely key.
We've covered a lot of ground today, haven't we? It's been a really fascinating deep dive. From the pervasive ZeuS stealing banking credentials right under users' noses, to Mirai weaponizing everyday IoT devices like your smart camera, and Conficker's incredibly persistent self-defending nature, it's just so clear that botnets are this evolving, really formidable force in the digital landscape. They represent this kind of unseen battle being fought constantly, every single day.
Absolutely. And ultimately, I think the real power of this knowledge of understanding all this lies in applying it by understanding not just what botnets are, but how they operate, their tactics, their stealth, what makes them formidable. You really gain a distinct advantage. It moves beyond just being aware of a threat to actually empowering you to take proactive, tangible steps to safeguard your own digital life and your organization, too. It's imperative, really, to protect yourself from this kind of malware.
Yeah, definitely. This deep dive has really highlighted just how interconnected everything is in our digital lives, and how even seemingly harmless devices, that new smart plug or camera, can potentially become part of a larger unseen force, an army of digital zombies doing some cyber criminals bidding somewhere. So perhaps next time you're setting up a new smart device, you'll remember Mirai and maybe think a bit more about those foundational steps like changing default passwords that you can take to secure your little corner of the internet. It makes you wonder, doesn't it? What small, concrete step will you take today to enhance your digital safety?